comment is about instruction on gender with a high school textbook, Comprehensive Health. My remarks are not about transgender Americans. Although gender dysphoria is exceedingly rare, historically afflicting about 0.01% of the population, it is real. Please note the distinction between transgender people whom I respect and the ideological transgender movement, which seeks to warp our children and weaken families. Of note, the term gender applied only to the grammar of language until the 1950s, when sexologists, intent on an agenda of sex reassignment, hijacked and redefined the word. Here's a list of what the textbook says. It tells students that biological sex and gender are two different things, that their biological sex may not be what they really are. What they really are is what they feel they are, and what they feel they are is their gender. It says gender is more than your anatomy. Gender is determined by sex chromosomes. Gender is learned. Gender is inborn. Gender is masculinity or femininity. Gender is the characteristics defined by society. The textbook defines gender and sex, then blurs those definitions. It presents the existence of two chromosomal disorders and disorders of sex development as if these disorders are evidence that gender is different from sex. The explanation of gender is convoluted and contradictory. I would be surprised if anyone wasn't gender confused after reading it. I suspect that's by design. Interestingly, gender dysphoria isn't mentioned. Studies on twins have exposed the theory of an innate gender identity trapped in the wrong body as an ideological belief with no basis in science. These studies are not mentioned in the textbook. Barring one of the rare disorders of sex development, which affect less than 0.02% of the population, no baby is assigned sex or gender at birth. Sex declares itself anatomically in utero and is clearly evident and acknowledged at birth. The textbook teaches students that some children choose to change their appearance, clothing, and name to match the gender they feel they really are. It teaches students that some people choose to undergo surgery to match their organs with their gender. And it teaches them that parents should be supportive. Consider a few other disorders where a person has delusions about self. In body dysmorphic disorder, the person has the erroneous conviction she is ugly. Would you affirm that? In body integrity identity disorder, a person feels he is a disabled person trapped in a healthy body. These people have sought amputations and surgical severing of the spinal cord so that their bodies would match their feelings. Would you affirm that? Would you recommend liposuction for a girl with anorexia? When left alone, 70 to 95% of gender dysphoric children outgrow their dysphoria. That's not mentioned in the textbook. Nowadays, thanks to trans activists, children are not left alone. A student reading your textbook, who may understandably become confused, runs the risk of being identified by a trans activist teacher as a trans kid and encouraged to transition. Your textbook presents to impressionable and vulnerable teens a gender ideology which has no basis in science. It suggests transitioning and tells students their parents should support this. The book does not mention gender dysphoria and its recovery rate, twin studies that debunk gender ideology, or the existence of other delusions about oneself that no one is suggesting be affirmed. Does your conception of diversity allow diversity in personality and preferences without having one's identity as a girl or a boy come into question? Girls who like cars and don't like wearing ruffles, are they to question whether they might really be a boy? Gender confusion seems to be the goal of education, and it seems to be working. The number of girls claiming gender confusion is spiking drastically. Your curriculum advances the transgender craze, which is sweeping our country thanks to a concerted, top-down effort by a powerful minority forced on the American people, bypassing parents, victimizing kids, and pushing transgenderism, drag queen story hours, and sexualizing children. This instruction won't last forever. Whether you do the right thing or parents or legislators force it out, or whether it will be the inevitable lawsuits on behalf of the children and families who suffer thanks to this indoctrination. This dishonest textbook should be removed from the school, and instruction on gender ideology should cease.